Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first Save My Movies here on the Schmoe channel. I'm really excited to be bringing this new show to you all. It was my idea, and now we've finally got it happening right here on Schmoe's channel. Now, what is Save My Movies? Great question. I don't even know myself yet. We're going to figure it out together. But the main of our show is that we're going to be in a multiverse where your favorite franchises, which we're going to bring each week, only three movies have ever existed. So we have to debate what three are we going to save. This week, to kick things off, we want to start with a bang. So we are going to see the greatest film studio of all time, Pixar Animation. I know Ben is a huge Pixar fan, so I thought who better to save my movies with than the king of animation himself, Ben. So he's joining me for this one. And here's how it works. So I don't know what Ben has picked. Ben doesn't know what I have picked. This is going to be a surprise to me. This could be a very short show because we may have picked the same three, but I'm hoping we haven't. Here's how it works. We both have 3 picks and 2 honorable mentions. We're going to first of all say each other's honorable mentions. If someone has it on the list, we're going to save it and talk about it later. If none of us have it on the list, we're going to discuss it. We have our very fancy board, which we're going to be using throughout. Some are going to be forgotten, some we're going to debate, and some are going to be saved. And ideally, we're going to end up with 3 movies which we will save. And no matter what multiverse you live in, these movies will be here. The rest are erased from existence, never to be seen again. How tragic. Now, I think this is going to be a difficult one because Pixar has got so many brilliant films. I have narrowed it down to my favorite 5 and my favorite 3, which I'm really going to be really debating and trying to keep. There was one rule which I said to Ben, which was if you have a sequel or one of the movies in Pixar that has more than one film, i.e. Toy Story, The Incredibles, whatever it may be, you can only pick one of them. So you can't pick Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 as your top 3. You can only pick one of those movies. So I have a feeling, I don't know, that Ben may have picked a Toy Story. If he has, and I've picked a different Toy Story, we're going to have to figure out which one we're saving. So we shall see I don't know what Ben's got. He doesn't know what I've got. So let's get underway, Ben. So I'm going to start with my first honourable mention. If it is on your list of 3, let me know and we're going to pause it. We'll put it on the list and we're going to talk about it later. But my first honourable mention is Monsters, Inc. Is that on your list?
It's not on my list of 3, but it's on my honorable mentions.
Interesting. Okay, interesting. So we're going to put this in our middle column of save or forget because this is one we need to talk about. So we've got Monsters, Inc. So this one was very close for me to get onto the list, but it didn't quite edge out my top 3. So this came out when I was very young, and I think I didn't appreciate it when it first came out because I was scared of the snake. the villain the villain character absolutely terrified me. So I couldn't watch it properly until about 10 years later, and then I realized what a masterpiece it was. Obviously, Sully and Mike's chemistry is absolutely incredible. The cast for Sully being John Goodman, and obviously Mike was just perfect casting, and it's just so much fun, so much heart. Obviously, the storyline with Boo gets you every time. It's a really enjoyable watch. Stunning animation. The door scene is incredible when they're going through with like, how did they do that at the time? Like, we're talking early 2000s, that had never been seen before. It gets to your heartstrings every single time. Obviously, as I said, the story that Sully and Boo and her saying goodbye. Oh, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. There's so much to love with this movie, but for me, it didn't quite crack my top 3. I really want to know what's in your top 3, but we're not there yet. So why is it honorable mention for you, Ben? Why is it honorable mention and not quite in your top 3?
So, okay, this is going to be a bit weird, but probably the prequel kind of ruins a bit of Monsters, Inc. a little bit.
Interesting.
I think if I hadn't watched Monsters University, it probably would have been a bit higher. But yeah, I definitely didn't enjoy that movie, but I enjoyed Monsters Inc. It was hella fun, but it was just edged out by the top three that I had, which, to be honest with you, uh, was probably, yeah, it was just because I had so much more of an emotional impact with my top three than I did with this movie. Don't get
Mm,
me wrong, it
mm.
has a heck of an emotional impact. I always imagine that when he goes through that door at the end and sees Boo again, that she's like a teenager or a preteen rather than a kid,
Ah,
and
interesting,
having like
interesting.
that's my head canon of the movie, and like I guess that's not the case, but that's my head canon of the movie, that he years later sees her again as a preteen, and uh she goes boo, and yeah.
I've never really thought of that. It's really interesting that the prequel Monsters University actually like lessened your enjoyment of the film. I didn't hate Monsters University. It's definitely not a top tier Pixar film for me. I thought it was okay for what it was. For me, it didn't take away the enjoyment of the first film. I thought it was a fine prequel. Is it one of their best? Absolutely not. But I also wouldn't put it as one of the worst. We all know the worst Pixar movie is by far Cars 2. That's if anyone has a disagreement on that, then come fight me. Um, or Brave is pretty close, but Cars 2 is by far the worst Pixar
Oh,
movie of all time, and
oh!
that is not even up
Don't
for
go,
debate.
don't go into
You
Brave.
want to fight me on this?
Brave has some. I have some family that really love Brave, so
Oh no. Okay. So I did say Brave is for me one of the lower ones, but it's not the worst. I think there's some redeeming
yeah.
qualities in that movie. But we're not here to talk about the worst. We're here to talk about our favourites and the ones we want to save.
Yep.
So we both have Monsters Inc. on our honourable mentions, which does mean there's a potential that that might be one that we agree to put in as one of our three at the end. So we're going to put it in the middle for the moment. We're not forgetting it. We're going to just have it on the cusp. We're not sure what we're doing with it yet. So Ben, what is your first honourable mention? Well, you must be your other one because Monsters Inc. was one of them.
Yes. So I've kind of been jumping between two, but I'm gonna go with Toy Story 2. This movie, it edges out Toy Story 1 for me.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, it beats. I haven't really watched Toy Story 3 properly, or Toy Story 4.
Sorry, I
I
just had
know
a
I'm a
moment.
terrible human, but for me, that story of the cowgirl was
Jesse,
probably, yes. Thank you, Jesse. That was probably one of like the biggest emotional impacts growing up, and still hearing that song, I get emotional. Um, so for me,
when she
uh,
loved me.
yes, that
Yeah,
song
beautiful moment.
was when
Okay,
somebody
so
loved me.
something like that.
Yes.
So this is where we're going to have an issue because obviously I mentioned at the beginning that if we have a sequel, and I knew it would happen with Toy Story because 3 out of the 4 films, again, fight me on the fourth one, are all excellent. So I think there's an argument to be made for Toy Story 1, 2, or 3 that that could be the best one. I have picked one of them in my top 3. So are you saying you
Okay.
don't have a Toy Story in your top 3? Oh my god, I'm shocked. Okay, so the Toy Story I picked was Toy Story 3, but for me, it was very close between 3 and 2. I think they're both
Mm,
excellent movies. I think for me, 3 just resonates more because I grew up with Toy Story 1 and 2 as a child, and then when Toy Story 3 came out in 2012, I was at the same stage as Andy. You know, I was sort of
mm,
going to university at that point. I'd just gone to college and it was so relatable to me, the story of Andy in that movie of having to give up and move on from his childhood toys and life and moving on. And I really, really related and found it emotional. And I mean, I can't believe you haven't seen it all. I'm actually so upset about this. You're missing out on such enjoyment, Ben. But
I wonder if we should maybe talk about it later
like,
when
it
you
it
go to
it
your
just
top three.
showcased the best in the characters we love.
Mm.
Sorry, what was that?
I say maybe we should go through it more when we're in your top three.
So you've cut out a bit my end. Don't know if it's you or me, but I'm just going to continue to talk about how much I love Toy Story 3. Um, there is some moments in that movie which, I mean, are just so beautiful. The bit in the trash compactor when we think we have to say goodbye to them all. I remember my heart thumping. We have Spanish Buzz. We have Ken and Barbie. Obviously, the whole stuff with Lotso and the villain twist on that. There's just so much good elements, but most of all, and I think what Pixar does so well in general is the heart. There's so much heart in Toy Story 3. That being said,
Mm.
I could easily be convinced to change it to 2 because I think they're both excellent. I don't. Toy Story 2 is just as good as 3 for me, and that's the film I probably watched the most growing up. So I'm quite happy to give up my reign for Toy Story 3 and make this other honorable mention Toy Story 2. You, Ben.
Well, um, yeah. So, is Toy Story 3 in your top three?
Toy Story 3 is in my top 3, but like I said, we could
Okay.
only pick one if it was a sequel. And because you
All right.
picked
Fair
2 and
enough.
I also love 2, and you don't, I'm quite happy to change it to 2. So if we have to pick one Toy Story 2, it's one Toy Story, I don't mind it being 2 because there is, like you said, so much good in that. Al's Toy Barn, um, the moments we have between Jessie, Bullseye, and Woody, um, as you said, the really
The
emotional impact of the song. There's so much good stuff in that movie. Obviously,
Prospect
the
of
friendship.
Pete is probably one of my favorite villains.
So we're gonna for the moment we're gonna keep it in the middle because although it was on my list, it was only an honourable mention for you. So we need to find out what's on each other's lists before we get there. Now I have one other honourable mention which we haven't spoke about yet, and I don't know if it's on your list or not. But my other honourable mention is Finding Nemo. Is that on your list?
That's not on any of my lists.
Oh, I don't know what you've got. Okay, it's going in the debate column. Okay, so again, I have a soft spot because it came out when I was a child. A bit like Monsters Inc., I was absolutely traumatized for about 5 years because the very beginning of the movie, we see all of the fish's babies die, and I couldn't get past that bit of the film. So I actually didn't watch it until I was a bit older. I think Pixar's just scarred me for life, actually, now I look back on it. I love them, but they have absolutely destroyed my childhood. So I was so upset by that I stopped. I didn't even watch the movie the first time because I was like, "Oh no, all the babies!" I'm actually getting emotional thinking about it. Like I can't deal with that opening scene. It's too sad. Um, but again, stellar animation. Like this is the first time we go underwater. Dory is probably the best supporting character in any sort of Pixar movie. One of the best. Let's not talk about her own movie because that's a different discussion. Not my favorite, but as a supporting character in this movie, fantastic. Ellen does a great job voicing her. She's really amusing, really funny. She actually has her own arc in this story as well. You have we also have fish are friends, not food. Bruce the vegetarian shark, and there's so much comedy to be had with that. But again, most of all, it just comes down to this beautiful story between father and son and letting go. And Pixar makes films which are for adults but are suitable for children, and this is the story of like a child and a parent and letting them go, basically, like letting them be independent. And that it's just a real journey for them. It's such a beautiful movie, like majority of Pixar movies are great, but I felt like for me it had to be put on my honorable mentions. So it wasn't on yours. Why then? What's wrong with it? Why are you judging my film for?
It wasn't on mine because okay, so it's not that it didn't have the emotional impact that others did. There's another movie that I go back to a bit more than Finding Nemo. That I was kind of stuck between Toy Story 2 and that movie. Um, but yeah, Finding Nemo. If Pixar didn't have such great movies, that probably would have been higher on my list. But they have so many fantastic movies that that just dropped down my list. My,
Mm.
I do have one story though. My strongest memory for Finding Nemo was when the girl shakes the fish. We were in the cinemas. We went
In the
with my
dentist.
uncle and my yes. We went with my uncle and the rest of my family. And my mother, sitting at the back of the cinema, goes, "You bastard!" And everyone looks at
Love
her,
that.
and I just laughed.
Yeah. Oh, that's yeah. That the villain, I guess, of that movie, to some extent.
Yep.
Yeah, the crazy dentist girl. Also, I have to talk. The actual phenomenon which came from the seagull to people going, mine, 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 mine. I still do that now. We still do that as my friendship group. Probably just us because we're a bit weird, but that Finding Nemo blessed us with that. So I thank them for bringing that enjoyment to my life. Okay, so basically, so far we have both had Monsters Inc. on our honorable mentions. I had Toy Story 3 as one of my three. You had Toy Story 2. I've conceded that one and given you two, so bear that in mind for when we debate in a bit. And then I have Finding Nemo as one of my honorable mentions. So I think we've covered honorable mentions. It's time to move on to our top three. Now, obviously, one of mine was Toy Story 3, but I'm going to give in to two. So, what was your first top three on your list, which you want to save?
My first top three was Up.
Okay, Up is not on my list. It's not on my
How
list.
is it not?
Yeah, so it's going to have to go in the middle, and we're going to have to figure this out later. Um, Tell me why it's on yours, and then I'm going to tell you why it's not on mine, and I have
Okay,
a good reason why it's not.
so okay, so never before have I had such an emotional roller coaster within the first 10 minutes of a movie, and yet still, when the movie carries on, had such a emotional roller coaster again throughout the whole movie. The story of Doug, fantastic. I love dogs, so that was an awesome. He was an awesome side character. Uh, the little boy, obviously Mr. Fredrickson, um, kind of.
Doug.
The little boy was something else. Doug was the dog. Um, can't remember
Oh,
the little boy's
sorry,
name.
Doug is the dog. Oh, I
Yeah.
can't not know. You carry on. I'm going to look it up.
Okay. But Mr. Look, the whole story of Ellie and Carl was just fantastic. Um,
Russell.
Russell, that's it. Yes. Uh, so growing up, having a strong emotional bond with my grandmother, and having kind of growing as I get older, I kind of resonate more and more with this movie. Um, just the romantic story of Eddie and Carl, fantastic. Um, the little twist at the end where he finds the book and he sees that
Hmm.
her adventure was all the stuff that they'd done together before she died. That was a fantastic
Very
twist,
impactful.
and exactly. And like if I hadn't cried an hour and a half before that, I probably would have cried then too. But yeah, um, I always loved this movie. I've watched it about 5 or 6 times. Always love watching it. So why is it not on your
Okay.
list?
So I completely understand. I completely understand why Up is on your list. There's a lot to love about Up. My issue is you take away that first 10 minutes, okay, and you've got a really average movie, in my opinion. That first 10 minutes is like probably arguably the best 10 minutes in any Pixar movie. And that scene with like, showcasing their life with the music, the beautiful music in the background, amazing. It's like probably one of the best bits of Pixar content in any movie of all time. My issue is you take that out the movie and you've really got an average movie. Like that elevates it, don't get me wrong. And there are other bits I really enjoy. The bit you just referred to with her towards the end when he opens the memory book and she's put them all in. That's beautiful actually and really impactful. And I love Doug, Squirrel. It's really fun and really funny. But the other stuff, it's just like, what you doing? Like trying to find the bird, and then the whole like the
Oh,
villain,
but
like the old guy, and like it just didn't appeal. I felt myself getting bored. Like
okay,
the stuff with the family and Ellie and Cole is great. Like and when they touch back to it, it's really good. And obviously his relationship with Russell and how that grows, that stuff's good. But the actual plot of them finding this bird and then like his childhood hero being a villain and all that stuff, for me, I'm bored. Like it takes away from the. I feel like the 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 best bits of the movie are not the plot. It's the stuff around him and Ellie and him and the relationships work, but the actual like you know the the plot of the movie, it's just like it's not very. It's just boring. Like I don't get it. So I know I'm sounding
okay.
harsh. I like Up. It's a good movie. I just don't think it warrants being one of the saved movies, because you take away that scene and those two impactful moments, you've just got an average movie. Like for me, it's like a B level animated movie. It's not one of the top.
I I will disagree with you, and
That's
uh,
what you're here for, Ben.
yeah, uh, I will give one more thing that you can add to the reasons why I love it, and it's something that I've always that whenever a dog gets the cone, I always say it's the cone of shame. I do not like the cone of shame, but yes,
Yeah, I mean,
I
don't get me
mean
wrong, I love Doug.
personally,
Doug's brilliant.
okay, look, like the emotion, the plot of the story was more of building relation, as you say, it was more of building relationships than an actual adventure story. So for me, I think that's why it resonates better with me, because I like character driven stories. And although I do like adventure stories like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, character driven stories is what I like, and I like to see that.
Hmm.
And I like the the plot to kind of move along the characters, and that's what Up did. Like, yes, even though going after the bird and the bad guy being his hero and blah blah blah, yes, I can see why one would see that as negative, but at the same time, that kind of adds to Carl's conflict, because he sees this guy still as a hero, but he wants to
Hmm.
do good by Russell by the end. So you can kind of see the conflict in him, and I kind of like that in a story, and that's why I would save this movie. But that's me.
No, I don't begrudge you picking it. Like I said, there's probably only about 4 or 5 Pixar movies where if you were to pick them, I'd be like, "What are you doing?" But I think the
Mhm.
majority of them are good movies, and I can see arguments for a lot of them. But and Up's one, Up, I understand. understand why you'd want to save it, but for me, it's just you've got some brilliant moments, but it's not consistent enough throughout the film. And so for me, this one I think needs to be moved to forgotten because you're adamant. I'm like this. I can't have this as one, but we're going to skip it in the middle for the time being because we got to debate that later.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on to my second one. Obviously, I already mentioned Toy Story. We've that was an honorable mention for you, and it was on my list. My second pick is Inside Out. Is that on your list?
That's higher on my list.
So it is on your. It's on one of your top three.
Yes.
Do you know what? We have our first saved movie. That's it. It's on. If we both have it on the list, it's in. Inside Out is our first saved movie.
My
Um,
number one
okay.
pick.
Now I may have given the game away a little bit because I have got. If I can do this, yeah. So I did. I kind of got a bit of a thing for Inside Out. I do have all five of the emotions as pops, but I could only find three of them at the time being. So I put them behind me. Bit of a tell. So Inside Out is my favorite Pixar movie. Of all of them, I absolutely adore it. Um, I am a therapist, so I have a soft spot for anything which is talking about emotions and encouraging people to talk about their emotions. I use these. Oh, sorry. I use these figures in my therapy to help express people's emotions because people do not want to talk about their emotions. It's such a brilliant way to help particularly young people but adults as well realize that it's okay to be sad. The moment in the end of the movie where sadness takes the wheel broke me, but for all the right reasons, because it's like finally there is a piece of content which is actually looking at mental health, but wrapped up in a children's movie or like a Pixar movie. It's so smart. It's really funny. It's like again, oh, I can't tell you how much I love Inside Out. It's just my, I just think it's such a clever movie. It's so impactful. There's so much that can be done with it. It's just, oh, sorry, I can't breathe. I'm just so excited about Inside Out. Ben, take over so I can compose myself.
Fair enough. How this did not win Best Picture of the Year when it came out, I do not know. It is probably one of the best movies. The laughter is on point. Jokes per minute, fantastic. Um, the kind of when Riley goes into kind of depressed state and she's not feeling any emotion, sadness, anger, whatever. That kind of blank state. I've been in that state before, and that seeing that and how she kind of eventually just lets everything once sadness comes back and takes control of the wheel, as you say, it just all comes crashing down. And eventually, she's able to feel happiness again. She's able to feel fear and anger. And that's a place that I've been in before where one feels like you don't want to feel anything. And once you have that emotional release, that emotional kind of uh, bottle cap opening and explosion
Mm.
coming out, the euphoria you feel after that is just like the ment as you say, speaking about mental health and putting that in a kids movie is fantastic. And I wish people would show this to kids, to teenagers, to preteens, to adults who are going through depression. Show them that they're actually not alone in this world, and show them that,
Exactly.
hey, like
Exactly.
this is something that everyone goes through.
I actively encourage some of my clients to watch this movie if they haven't seen it before because it is such a great way of showing, that sadness is okay and it's okay to have that as part of your world, you know, you don't have to mask everything with joy all the time. And that's obviously the deeper levels of the film, but just as a movie in general, it's also really fun and funny. Like, I have key moments in my head, i.e. when the guy asked them out for a date, and like they're all panicking inside his head and things like that. Or um when I have broccoli on a pizza and anger goes crazy about it. I mean, who likes?
Yep.
I'm so with him. Who likes broccoli on a pizza? Um, and Bing Bong, Bing Bong. How sad is
Oh
Bing Bong's
yes.
like when he departs
Oh
us?
man.
I mean, come on, it's a bloody elephant, and you're sitting there like, oh my god, Bing Bong, and it's an
It's
imaginary
all.
character, but you care so
It's
much for
almost like
him.
when a pet dies, you feel that same emotion for ping
Exactly,
pong.
exactly. Really, you really do. So I'm so pleased you have it on your list as well, because I would have fought for this one, Ben. I'm telling you, if you,
Yep.
this was my number one pick. Like, I'm getting it. If you didn't have it, I was gonna get a plane, go to South Africa, and like make you put it on the list, because this I had to have this. I don't care about anything else, but Inside Out for me has to be on the saved movie list. So I'm really pleased you have it as well. Um, okay, so you should have one more that we haven't discussed yet. What is your final pick for saved movie?
Okay. So this may be a surprise, may not be a surprise, but it's Coco.
Okay, so I don't have Coco as one of as on my
I
list
didn't
or
think
my
so.
honorable mention, but it but no, but Ben, it was literally like number six. Like, it was just shy of an honorable mention. I think Coco's a brilliant film. I completely respect the decision of having it on your list. Why
Yeah.
is it on your list?
This is on my list for multiple reasons. The music in it is fantastic. Um, like the fact that it's a movie based on music and on how music kind of affects us. Um, then the family aspect where you don't want to forget your family kind of thing. How he goes through his um, emotions where he thinks his granddad is one person, turns out to be another, and you kind of
Mm,
see again it's another character based movie where growth is at the forefront, and that is why I love this movie. It's just then at the end that emotional thing of
mm,
music curing dementia or curing his grandmother's dementia was just it broke my heart. I've had family that have gone through dementia,
mm.
and
Same.
it was like a eye opener, like almost like my grandmother isn't going through dementia, but she had a husband that did go through it, and I would love to show her this movie just because, like, I feel like it's an emotional release. You
Mm,
see your family going through this whole thing and forgetting people, forgetting faces. And when he played that song from her childhood, she remembers her daughter again. That to me was just such an emotional, like almost like with what we said with that cap releasing on Riley. That was what I felt watching this
mm,
movie
mm,
and seeing him play Remember Me, and her remembering not just her father but everyone was just amazing. And I cannot say enough about how the the animation on this movie is fantastic. When he goes into uh, the the dead world,
dead. Yeah.
wow, that is mind-boggling. How great that animation is. Even his spirit animal, the cute little dog. I've told you I like
Oh, I love
dogs,
that
but
dog. Yeah.
that was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I completely. understand your decision for having it as one of your three. I really enjoyed Coco. I remember I watched this when I was at university and went with a couple of my uni friends, and it, to, like two of them are in a relationship, and the guy said to me, like jokingly with her, was like, "Oh, don't cry, don't cry. You know, you always cry at these movies." And it came to the end of the film, the bit you were talking about when he starts singing "Remember Me," and then she remembers, and it's really really sad, but in a good way. And he was bawling his eyes out, and the girlfriend was fine, and he was sitting there bawling his eyes out. And I was like, "You were giving her stick before we came in, and you are now in bits." So I have a fond memory from watching Coco, and I remember that happening at the time. So yeah, I have very vivid memories of watching the film with those two and a couple other friends, and yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head. And my nan had dementia before she passed, and one thing that she'd always remember music, so it
Mm.
shows the beauty of what music can do, and the song itself is really really impactful. Remember Me, like that and alone is, it says so much. And um it's the reason it didn't quite make my top three is, again, it's the the actual sort of plot. I think it has great moments, but I don't quite like where it ends in like the big showcase and stuff. I liked him finding out that the person he thought was his dad wasn't actually his dad and all that stuff. But I don't know, the whole like last sort of big impacty scenario, it just didn't quite land for me. But when he gets back and sings the song like that really kind of steals the show. And it's a good pick. I do really enjoy Coco, but for me, wasn't quite enough to get onto that top three or honorable mention list. But like we said, there is so many good films with Pixar. Like, unless you picked like four of them, I can't say that's not worth picking, because they're just there's
Yeah.
such a wide array of brilliant films. Um, so we have
If you
only
pick
agreed on
Cars as your
one.
last one, I will hate you.
Okay, don't. Okay, okay. Let's just not even joke, because Cars franchise, it needs to go on here, because I'm sorry. The first Cars is okay, but let's just be real. Like, there's just no way we're putting a Cars on a saved movie list. Like, why have they made three of them? I will never understand. The first Cars is fine. It's fine. But the other two, I mean, the
Mm.
third one was a massive step up from Cars 2, which is by far the worst one.
Haven't
Probably
seen
the
it.
worst
After
Pixar
Cars
movie
2,
they've
I
ever
gave
made
up.
is Cars
So.
2. Again, I, if you Cars 3 is better than 2, but still not great. So let's just be real. No one's picking Cars. If anyone picks Cars as their favorite Pixar movie, then you've got to sort your life out. You've got something wrong. There's something wrong going on, in my opinion. And I know that's really harsh, but I feel very passionately about how bad the Cars franchise is. Okay, so I have one pick which you have not picked then, because I have one left. Um, I and then that's all the movies we have. So my final pick is, can you guess it? Actually, see if you can guess what my
Incredibles.
final pick is. Yes. How did you know?
Because that was on my. That was the one that I was choosing between Toy Story 3 and Incredibles. I was like, which one do I put on my honorable mentions?
So yes,
We.
it is The Incredibles. How did you know that? Oh my god. Okay. Yeah. So The Incredibles is the best Fantastic Four movie we've ever had. Um,
Mhm.
and I, growing up, used to have a DVD player, which used to be so high up in my room I couldn't reach it. So The Incredibles was in my DVD player, and that's all I watched every night for about a year and a half. So there was a time
Wow.
in my life I knew every single word to The Incredibles, and I think if I was to put it on now, I reckon I could do 80% of the movie. Um, it's been a while, but I know the majority of it off by heart. Now, you might think that because I watched it so often that it would kill my enjoyment, but I still can watch it and love it. it's so fun. Um, it is the story of an adult having to understand that he's past his prime. It's basically the story of someone going through a midlife crisis wrapped up in a child's movie. Now, when I was younger, I did not understand the subcontext at all. Now I'm a bit older, I completely get that part of the movie. But as a younger person, I just thought it was super cool. We've got a very fast guy who can run. We have someone who can do force fields. We've got a stretchy girl. We've got a strong man. I just thought it was awesome and really enjoyable in that sense. Now I'm older and understand the subcontext. I'm like, oh, this has actually got some deep themes going on in this film. And obviously we have Jack, which we have to acknowledge
Yeah.
is just like the star of the show. I'm not going to talk about The Incredibles 2 because for me it was nowhere near the quality of the first one. It was okay. Again, it's a serviceable sequel, but not quite as good as the original. Well, nowhere near as good as the original. But yeah, The Incredibles is just like so much fun. It probably has the best villain. I think it has the best villain maybe in any Pixar movie. I'd say Lotso from Toy Story 3 is also a very good villain, but this actually has a villain with an interesting backstory. You understand why he's doing what he's doing. And the mode says no capes, and that's meets his demise. So what do you think, Ben? So this was on the cusp for you, but not quite on the
This,
saved.
yeah, this was on the cusp for me, and again, I can see your point of where plots kind of saves movies, because I guess if you're taking your kids to a show, and you see, this is where Pixar does things so well. They have movies for kids that adults can go and watch, and as you say, Incredibles has this subtext that adults can get, uh, and kids just love the action, the let's go on an adventure, let's save dad, let's save the
Yeah,
world, sort of thing. And I guess that's where the plot helps that movie, as you say. And um, I got to agree that the movie is fantastic. They are the Fantastic Four of Pixar, as you said. Uh, but yes,
it's the best movie we've had.
I would honestly move that to the saved list at this point because there's nothing you can say bad about it.
Oh, are you Oh, I love it.
Since
So,
you gave me
okay,
Toy
so the
Story
next step
2,
of
I am
this is we now have to
conceding.
narrow that. Okay, before you do that, we have to narrow that list down to our final three.
Yeah,
We've, I, luckily, because we didn't discuss beforehand, we could have had the same three, and this would have been a very very short show. But we only agreed on one, which was Inside Out. We had a few same honorable mentions, but okay. So out of these movies, Monsters Inc., Toy Story 2, Finding Nemo, Up, Coco, and The Incredibles, we can only save two of those six. Now, I think the way we should play this is the first thing we should both do is remove one, and we can't do anything about it. So I'm going. You have the power to remove one of those six, and I have the power to remove one of those six. So the first one I'm going to remove is Up. Sorry, Ben.
you're evil.
It's gone. It's gone. Now you can pick one.
Okay. I was I was gonna pick this anyway. Monsters Inc. Um,
So I'm so sorry. That was a massive overreaction. I did say you can have it. I'm just surprised you picked that because that was on your honourable mentions as well.
it was, but
It's gone. It's a
and
goner.
I guess
It's a goner.
yeah, it was between that and Finding Nemo for me. So
Okay, so I think I'm in agreement that out of those movies, I'm also happy to remove Finding Nemo. So I think the other three are worth fighting about more than that one. I can't defend it as
yep,
much as I can the others. So we're gonna
yep.
say goodbye. to Finding Nemo. And now we're left with 3 and we've only got 2 spots.
Oh,
Whew, this is tough. This is tough. So I feel like we have to have a Toy Story movie on our saved movie list. I don't know I don't know where you're at, because Toy Story did start Pixar. Like, apart from the 4th one, I think all 3 movies are excellent. And
Yep.
I think we can't have a Pixar saved movie list without a Toy Story film. Obviously, I conceded that we can take the second one over the third one, and I feel as though I think we have to have a Toy Story film. So if we're gonna go with Toy Story 2, we need to put it on the list. Are you in agreement?
I'm in agreement.
Okay. Okay, and now we're left with a very tough choice.
And now we come to fisticuffs.
I didn't have Coco on. This is the thing.
Because you're evil.
So we've got my movie, we've got my movie, which is The Incredibles, and then your movie, which is Coco. Now the thing is, I was pretty adamant that we would have. You've convinced me on Coco, and this is why I'm struggling, because now I spoke through it, I have it higher than I initially had, but The Incredibles is still really fun. So, this is tough. This is tough. Okay, what's your gut telling you? What one?
Coco. I just love that movie too much. I can't let it die.
Oh, oh, my gut says The Incredibles. So we need to figure this out. Okay.
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 All right.
Let's both think of one reason why your movie, like, so as in, I'm going to think of one reason why Coco should not be on the list. You think of one reason why The Incredibles should not be on the list, and see if that swings it. So,
Okay.
like I said, with Coco, I think it has some iconic moments, and the song at the end obviously is really impactful with his grandma, and certain parts of the film, i.e., like the first time he travels over to the land of the dead, and the song, and his father not being the one he fought, and that sort of thing. I think there's some really good moments, but I think it has key moments, but it's not memorable as a film as a whole. Like, I can't remember everything that happened in Coco, whereas The Incredibles, I feel like I can remember the whole plot of that movie. Granted, I did watch it about for a year and a half every night, so that might be why. So that might explain it. But I feel like I have a much better recollection of The Incredibles than I do Coco, because I think The Incredibles is just got a stronger plot from start to finish, and that's the best. I like Coco a lot, so it's difficult to argue, but that's what I'm gonna go with. What about you?
Okay. So my argument would be that even though Incredibles has a great plot and very memorable, there's not really great emotional or character-driven moments as much as there are with Coco, because I think that story in and of itself is more of an emotion, is more of an adventure. Let's have an adventure. And yes, there is that Bob Parr, I can't lose you again moment, but beyond that, there aren't very many emotional, resonant moments in that movie that you can resonate with it emotionally, like I have with Coco. And
This is tough.
yeah.
I
will
think
disagree with you on one thing, because I can remember just about every plot point in Coco, but that's just because, as you say, I've watched that about 6-7 times.
Okay, here's a test for you. Name the characters.
Abuela, Coco, Miguel.
See, you got
Dash,
but
I mean, I couldn't even
Violet,
remember Toy Story 2's
obviously
characters.
Mr. Incredible, which is Bob and Helen Parr, their alter egos. We've got, who else is in The Incredibles? Syndrome, the villain. Jack, Edna Mode. See, it's more memorable. Like I loved Coco, but apart from Coco and Umbrella, I can't remember the names of anyone else.
They didn't really have. What was his father's name? His great grandfather's name. But yeah, I guess you're right. But okay, I will concede. Coco can go
Yes.
to the forgotten,
Yes.
even though that breaks my heart.
It's I don't feel good about it. I have to be honest. I don't feel good about that one. But I'm pleased I've got The Incredibles on the list.
I'm gonna
I
put
don't
up.
think you mind too bad. Oh, I can't spell.
No,
What
I
am I doing?
don't. But I'm definitely gonna put up a poll. Which do you prefer, Coco or Incredibles?
Okay, so Coco is moving to the forgotten. The forgotten, I'm afraid. Along with the other Pixar movies.
Wait,
So let's go to
what
that a minute.
movies?
Exactly. Oh, I thought that would make it bigger, but it didn't. Let's go with that. I can't work this app. It's fine. So,
Highlight it, and then increase it.
see, this is why you are the tech genius, and I'm just here for the looks. Um, no, I'm joking. Okay, so we have come up with our very first list of saved movies with Pixar. I think we have a good list there. I'm quite happy with
Mhm.
that. I've got to be honest. So we have Inside Out, Toy Story 2, and The Incredibles. That is our list. We have saved our movies. Bye bye everything else in Pixar canon. Please, I'd love to hear what you guys think. So if you disagree with us, we want to know. If you agree with us, we want to know. Please comment on this video. Let us know what you think of the show. Let us know what you think of the format. Obviously, this is something new for us, and we thought it'd be fun to try. Thank you so much, Ben, for joining us on our very first show. Obviously, we could not do Pixar without Ben being involved because he is the Pixar legend. He loves animation, so it made sense to have Ben involved. I'm very pleased that I've got The Incredibles in that list, and I'm going to take that as a big win.
I'm just glad
And
Inside
we
Out
have
made it.
officially saved our movie. Yes, and so we have officially saved our movies. Pixar is done. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with a brand new list. Not sure what yet. I have some ideas brewing. I'm thinking maybe something a bit more sci-fi, but we shall see in 2 weeks' time. And like I said, please comment on this. Let me know what you thought. If also if you want to join in and guest, I am open to having new people be involved with this show. If you've never been on anything before, let me know. Like I want it to be an open show. I want to rotate the guests around. This is my baby, and I want it to be open to other people, and I want people to get involved. So please come at me if you disagree. Come at Ben if you disagree with his picks. Let me know why Cars 2 should be on the save movie list.
Oh,
It's going to
no,
take a
no,
lot of
no, no,
effort to
no,
do
no.
that, but if you can, I believe in you. And this has been Save My Movies. It's been real fun. And until next time, we shall see you later. Bye bye,
Bye
everyone.
bye. Sorry.